I want to talk about movement, because the studio that I started 30 years ago is called Inside Outside, and so we work in landscape, exhibition design, and interior design. And what we are about is movement and change. And so it's all about creating trajectories that take the viewer or the visitor through different conditions to actually trigger emotions or experiences. Experiences in the landscape, or walking through a building, to us it's all the same. It's about views and it's about feelings or curiously discovering things. You could be it could make you happy, or it could make you fearful. Landscape is not only about peace and meditation and beauty. It's also taking you to places you don't want to be, maybe, or make you a bit scared. So I think our work is not only creating beauty and peace and harmony, which people sometimes think, but it's also putting you on the edge, or making you think a bit longer, or maybe losing your balance a bit, not literally, but mentally. So it brings you, our installations, our interventions bring you into another form of consciousness. And but today, I don't want to talk about all our work. That's too complex for a TED talk. I want to talk about curtains, because curtains is the first, what I can call travel that we made with an enormous amount of discoveries. Because the curtain has a traditional image, which of course is not what we talk about when we talk about curtains. Our curtains are stage curtains. They are heavy. They are an enormous mass of cloth. And they move. They move in and out, up and down, to the left, to the right. They catch light. They announce something. They communicate the image of a building. They communicate the culture of a country. If you are in a theater, you might say, oh, okay, there's the stage curtain, hop, 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 where is the performance? But the stage curtain is already a form of performance. And it symbolizes where you are. And if you are next time in the theater, I hope you will also take with you this talk, because when I made my first stage curtain for the dance theater in The Hague, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea that it had to have a certain weight, that there's no, that light can't come through, that it needs to really isolate the sound on the stage from the auditorium. I didn't know that how you sew it. I didn't know that it needs to live for 15 to 20 years, and it's used day and night, open and close, open and close. Used to be done with cords, and now it's all computerized. But anyway, and then not long after, I discovered, like you see now, that also a curtain can disconnect itself from the given. It can disconnect itself from the architecture, from the stage, from the facade. It can just go its own way and make its own shape and make its own space. So I call it the emancipation of the curtain. So just see it as a metaphor. I leave it up to you. But a curtain is not just an obedient, beautiful thing in front of the window. Come on. So what we also discovered when we did this curtain for the Kunsthal is that it's also possible to integrate it in the architecture. Yes, it escapes, yes, it does its own thing, but it's also beautiful that, for instance, the track, the motors, everything that is the first step to make a curtain, basically, is really integrated in the architecture. It's part of the architecture. So here, for instance, the track was really poured into place in the ceiling. And then sometimes you do create very classic curtains. Of course, a stage curtain is red, you know, and that's all very, very, it's hundreds of years ago that a curtain needed to be red because it was status, because the color red was a very mysterious color. I won't talk about that because that takes at least an hour. But, you know, cardinals and kings and emperors, they all wore red. So it's very important. And sometimes you need to do it, and you need to also use gold thread, but you do it in a different way. So a curtain becomes a kind of structure in itself. It is a stage curtain, it does its role. In this case, it's a guillotine curtain, it goes up and down, but you do something with it that's never been done before. And you work in a scale that is quite something. What we also discovered is the use of color, how color can influence unbelievably the space. You can take pink or yellow or green and everything will change if you unroll it. You will start to get pink, green or purple, but also the architecture changes completely. And the beauty of the curtain is also, I think, that it can come and go. It's a personality of its own. So the whole choreography of movement, how fast it moves, where it goes, whether it flutters or wallops or billows, or whether it makes noise or doesn't make noise, whether it's transparent or translucent, whether it floats in space, like here. Here, this is the epitome of emancipation. The curtain doesn't need the architecture at all. It just floats on helium balloons. And it does this. And if you open the door, the whole curtain moves. So it's doing unexpected things. And these unexpected things for us are actually the essence of our fun in our work. Creating openings, tracks that move outward into the garden, that create curtains that are outside. Why not? Why does a curtain, stays imprisoned in the interior? No need at all. So you discover while working with curtains the materials and the reaction of materials on the situation. Is it light or heavy? And you, of course, discover architecture and the complexities of necessities, the program you get. You get a program. What does the curtain need to do? It's a technical tool. Climate, sound, light, UV, etc. It needs to have exits and entrances. It needs to have storage space. Where do you store it? Is it in a wall, in the ceiling? The whole structure of architecture needs to be adjusted because it's heavy. One of the curtains here weighs 500 kilos. Come on, you can't just hang it like that. So you need to get into the technique, whether it's digital or whether it's manual. And of course, the beauty of collaboration, the crafts, the knowledge, the professionalism, the teams that work with you, internationally. Some people do things you can't even imagine. So while you're thinking, I have designed it, it actually develops while you're making. And so structures are included also as a form of emancipation, maybe, into the curtain. And I'm going to move a bit quicker because time has run out. We also discovered that not only do curtains create spaces, but why not create curtains that have a space in themselves? Structures, steel structures, cables and beams, if it is, helping and exploring, but also challenging the architecture, or sometimes, even making it more obvious what the architects mean. You can make things that connect directly to the architecture. Scale, space, flexible space, often in existing buildings, old buildings, new buildings, such as here in the local, are an enormous challenge. And this is a movie that I want to show you, because here you see and you experience through this movie maybe that a curtain can inhabit a space, an architectural space, an empty space, a vacant space, and make it, give it a new life, give it a flexible way of using it for different programs. So in Venice, where we represented the Netherlands in the Architecture Biennial in 2012, we created an installation that symbolized this flexible use, relatively cheap, relatively easy, of an empty vacant building, a monument, and creating 12 different positions for this curtain and symbolizing 12 different ways of use. So you could create a round space, would be an auditorium, a triangular space would be a church, a vertical, a rectangular space could be an office, or it could be a hairdresser, anything. But what we also did in the local is actually the same idea. It's motorized, enormous drapes, with windows, with very opaque words, very transparent words that actually complement the architecture. It leaves you the view, but it creates rooms, auditoriums, reading room, stage, but it also solves acoustic issues. It's a much better acoustic thanks to it. And you can play with it forever, and they are made in a very strong way, so that it can be here for hopefully 50 years. I think that would be the least. I leave you to the film another 5 minutes to see. Can you see it? Yeah, it's quite light today, but what we try to do here is actually symbolize the whole story that I told you or tried to tell you today, that the use of color has effect on the architecture, but also the scale and the division of a plane. So here the plane is also partly opaque and thick and massed, and partly very transparent and lightweight. It has divisions vertically, it has divisions horizontally. It has openings, so it creates a window in the curtain, looking out and looking in, but it also has a black dot which symbolizes the obstruction of you, so that you can't look through. And these two sometimes shift together, and it's like, the sun and the moon. So it also represents architecture in itself with all these terms. Reflection, absorption, vertical division, horizontal division, transparency, opacity, view, obstruction of view, etc., etc. So, in fact, we discovered that the curtain is a form of architecture, flexible architecture, which we can do in all scales, all over the world, in a material that globally is known, which is called textiles.